Welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use skill and tools. And in using your skill and tools, we're going to be looking at QwenPaw and the Hermes agent. So this is QwenPaw. So as you could see here, you have a skill section and you have a tool section. And this is also your Hermes agent. As you could see, you have a section dedicated to skill and tools. So you could see here there's skill and there's tool set, although it takes some time to boot on. So let's look at what this skill and tools actually mean. So a tool is a verb, while a skill is a playbook. So for a skill, consider the fact that you have a very long prompt and you are telling the LLM, for example, to do a very detailed task. So this prompt becomes so long. So the advice is that you split this prompt and put it into what they call a skill. For example, if it will be used all the time. For example, you look at Office docs, PDF, they take a lot of processes to produce a PDF. For example, reminders, for example. You want to like download some article somewhere and get reminded accordingly. So this is how skill works. Skill is more or less like a set of instruction that can involve a lot of tools. So you can see a folder with skill.md, an instruction telling the agent when and how to combine tools for a job. So within a skill, you don't actually have the tool there, but you have the name of the tool listed and an instruction on how the agent can actually use the tool. But when you talk about a tool, you are talking about the actual piece of code that actually gets a thing done. So you're talking about a verb, an action, for example, like read file, web search, send a message. So this, you're actually talking about some piece of code that actually does an executable task. So for example, every action follows the same 5-bit loop. So you see here a message, you are asking for something. The model reads skill, description, and picks one. So depending on the task you're doing, you might have a whole lot of skills. The model is actually going to pick a particular skill. Just like I told you before, the skill itself is like an extension of your prompt. So what the model does is that the model, the agent, will load the particular skill that is relevant to the message you are asking. So what happens? Then some tool calls are being emitted. So you see emit a structured tool call, then the runtime runs it and return the result. The model writes the final reply. So this is exactly what you get whenever like the normal behavior of an agent works. So what is inside our skill? What is inside the skill? So it's nothing exotic. It's a YAML formatted up top. A name and a description are the only required fields. So you see you have name and description. The rest, for example, is just instruction that the agent reads when the task matches. So these are instructions. For example, this is a church reminder skill. So you could see here that, so the steps here are pass the event date and recipient, call schedule job for each reminder on fire and send a WhatsApp message and send telegram. So you see, so this is the skill. And you could see within this skill that we have some calls here. This is the tool that is being called here. So you see the tool here, schedule job, send WhatsApp message, and send telegram. So within a skill also, you could also have things like scripts, references, and assets. So scripts are kind of like, sometimes you want to add some piece of code that could be run. This happens when, for example, you don't have, let's say, for example, your tools are not explicitly defined to handle all aspect that your skill handles. So references are just like long docs to kind of provide more context to your skill. And then assets, of course, could be more, any other thing that does not fall in between your scripts and your references that you want to actually add within the domain of your skill. So in terms of QwenPaw, so the QwenPaw agent has skill, tools, and memory. So there are so many ways you could talk to your QwenPaw. So here you have kind of like the web console, your terminal URL, your Telegram, your WhatsApp message, or whatever means you want to talk to. So same skills, same tools whenever you talk to, build on AgentScope. So AgentScope is actually a library that QwenPaw is actually built on. So these are actually the building skills. So we are actually going to be looking at it shortly. So this is actually your building skills. For example, you could see this skill here called brainstorming. There's a skill here called cron. There's a skill here called chat with agent. And then there's a skill here called PDF. There's a skill here called Prisma. There's a skill here called writing skills. So let's look at one of the skills, for example. Let's look at something like this Prisma. And then when we open it here, you could see the description of the skill. So look at what it is. So you could see schema design traps, query patterns I forget, N+1 query prevention. So these are kind of like a guide for Prisma. So let's look at something else. So you could see here writing plans. So you could see here, this is a well-formatted skill. You could see it has a heading called writing plans. Then this is an overview section. So there's an overview section here. And then there's a scope, there's file structure, there's side task granularity, there is plan document header. You could see there's a task structure. So basically, all you're seeing here is how to write plans. So basically, this will be injected to your LLM prompt whenever you want to write plans. So this is what it means. So you could see also others here as well. So if you look at GwenPaw has this thing called a skill pool. So all your agent has a central pool of skill available to every agent. You can install here once and reuse anywhere. Manage from the console UI, CLI, or whatever. So, but when you talk about skills itself, it's per workspace skill. So let's check that out. So you could see here that when you come here, you could see what they call load from skill pool. You see? So sync to skill pool. So for example, if I have something here that is not available for all, let's say for example, I want to sync this, like Prisma is not available for all other agents. So I could come here and say sync to, and I could select what I want to sync. So for example, in that case, let me say I want to sync Prisma. So I click on it and then I click on confirm. So what happens now is that you can load a particular agent now from, these are the ones that are available in the pool. So every other agent can benefit from this set of skills. So you could also kind of like create your own skill from here as well. So you see the format on how to put the name of your skill, and then you could decide what channels that your skills will be available to be used. So you see here, and these are some tags. So you could create a skill. So skills are just nothing but long prompts that are actually too bogus enough for you to include in your main prompt all the time. So the agent will find a way to load the skill that is relevant, kind of like extend your prompt to what is relevant in answering your particular question. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be seeing how we can import our skill from our marketplace. So a marketplace is nothing but a website where skill are being listed. So there are websites where skill are being listed so that other developers could actually have to use them. So irrespective of what agent you're using, most agents still share the same marketplace. So you could see most of the marketplaces here, like one here called Skill.sh, another one called ClawHub. For example, let's check out Skill.sh and see how the marketplace look like. So when I come here, I'm just going to say Skill.sh. And immediately you see this is the marketplace. And you could see these are all the skills that are available in the open for everybody to use. So for example, if I'm working on real estate, I could come here and say real estate. So if I want to build a real estate agent, so I could check real estate research skill, real estate expert, real estate analyzer. So this is how you get to use skills that others have written. So let's come back to the GwenPaw console and see how we could install skills from. So you could see here, there's something here called import hub. So this import hub is how you install a skill. So depending on the hub that you, for example, I'm looking at skill.sh. Let's say this, my agent actually is a Next.js builder. So it builds Next.js applications. So for me to actually look for Next.js skills that I can add, so what do I do? So I come to the marketplace and here I look for Next.js. So we're going to search, instead of real estate this time around, we're going to be looking for Next.js. So I'm going to look for Next.js. And then you see Next.js upgrades, Next.js developer. So there's a whole skill here for app router fundamentals. There's a lot of skills here. So there's like Next.js 16 skills. So you could see a lot of things that involve Next.js. So Next.js mastery, Next.js expert. So a whole lot. So maybe I'm going to check based on which one is more used. So you can see app router patterns. So let's just say we are using this Clark Next.js patterns. So here, what am I going to do? So the normal way to install this skill is just do an npx skills add. So npx is basically for people in Node. So it's kind of like a way, just like you do pip install. So this is how you have npx. So it's a package manager stuff. So here, I'm just going to come here and I'm going to copy the whole of this address. So this is what I need for the QwenPaw console. So when I come to this imports hub, I'm going to paste this URL. Immediately I paste this URL, you see the URL is valid. So immediately what do I do? So it's part of skill.sh. So what do? I just import it. So by clicking on import, this particular skill is going to be installed after some time. So let's just give it some time. You're going to see imported skill. So this skill is now available. So if you look within our agent now, somewhere you will see the skill being listed as part of the skills that we have here. So I'm just kind of looking for it here. So I haven't seen it yet. So, but I know that the skill has been imported. Maybe I need to refresh to be able to see that particular skill. So let's see, look at it here. So you see, this is the skill. And what did we say the skill is? The skill is nothing but a file, an instruction that is being added. So whenever I'm working with Clark and I want to build authentication with Next.js or even Expo, this skill will be added to my prompt. It will be an extension to my prompt. It will be an extension to the message, my chat message to the LLM. So this is what a skill does. So as you could see, we've talked about all the skill marketplaces. I've talked about skill.sh. We've talked about ClawHub. So we did with an example with skill.sh. So in as much as you could even refer to any folder, as long as that folder has a skill.md file, you could copy this skill.md file and just paste it and create a new skill. Or probably just provide the URL to QwenPaw. QwenPaw is going to automatically import it to your workspace. So you could see here, so one of the things you should take note of, you shouldn't trust anything you see on the open. So in February 2006, researchers audited about 2,857 skills on ClawHub and found 341 malicious ones. So there are people that will instruct your skill to call some kind of function or some kind of bash payload. So they're going to call some kind of script that is stored somewhere. And that script is going to, for example, steal your private key. So you should be very careful. What you could also do is that you could practically just copy the skill.md file. Make sure you read it before you do. And the way you can read it is when you come here, when you click on a particular skill, you can easily preview. So for example, let me look for this one. You see, we could preview here and you could read the entirety of what in the skill. Most skills are not that long that you can, because a skill is always summarized in such a way that it will not be token, it costs a token grabbing hell for you. That's a situation where you lost a lot of tokens just because the message is not summarized enough. So apply the 100/3 rule that prefers skills with 100 plus install and 3 months of activity. So 100 people have installed it and they've been at least 3 months of activity. So that's what the 100/3 rule. So never paste a raw one line from a source you cannot inspect. So if you see that the skill is actually calling a URL you can't have access to, you should be very scared about such kind of skills. So we're going to be talking about writing your own skill. So it's very easy to write your own skill. Just like I told you, if you look at it here, when you come to this skill page, there's a place here to create a skill. So creating a skill just means writing this file. Manually, you can start writing, see, and you save and it becomes a skill as long as you give it a name. So that's it for authoring skills. So let's go back and see how you could write your own skill. So step by step. So from an empty folder to a working skill.md that the agent picks up on restart. So how do you go about that? 3 moves to a custom skill. So make a folder plus a skill.md. So this skill.md file is what makes it a skill. So if you have a folder and within the folder you create a skill.md file and write the formatter. So that means a sharp name and a description. So this is what tells the agent of what kind of skill it is, because this is what will be relevant for the skill to be picked up based on your prompt. So based on the prompt, this skill could be picked up. So you should make sure that you put a very descriptive name here. So optional, you could power up your script with like scripts that it should call, but that is not always. So if, for example, if you have things that are too long, you could break it down and put it under references, and then you could reference it like this. So for example, here you see references spread.md. So call getRead. So getRead is actually a tool that this script is actually saying the agent should call. So QwenPaw wraps every tool call in defense. So you have sandbox, you have tool guard, you have file guard, and you have a skill scanner. So QwenPaw itself is so safe that when you try to install a tool and it's dangerous, it's actually going to scan the tool and actually tell you that this is dangerous because it has dangerous commands in it or is giving dangerous instructions. So same open standard applies to Hermes. So it's the same thing. So it's kind of like an open standard. Hermes also needs you to have a skill.md file. So the same skill that you installed in Hermes can also be used on QwenPaw. So the same skill. So these agents can actually share the same skill. So you could see for Hermes also, it has its own official bundle skills from the Hermes repo. So if you go to Hermes, so let's look at Hermes a bit here. So this is Hermes agent. You could see here that there are skills. So most of the skills came. So one of the things about Hermes is that the more you keep using Hermes, it automatically starts creating skills for you. So it evolves. It begins to study your activities and sometimes create skills for you. So if you are using Apple, it automatically created these Apple-oriented skills for me. So you could see here, I have 5 skills. I didn't actually create this by myself. They were all done by the Hermes agent. You could see here for DevOps, it has some skills here it created for me. So because I wanted to deploy to Hesna, it actually automatically created the skill. You have an email skill here. It might have picked it somewhere else. Sometimes Hermes agent could even look at my QwenPaw instance and actually get some skills automatically from it. So for software development, you could also see the skills that we have here. So that's one of the good things about Hermes agent. So you could see here that the tool call is just structured text. Hermes speaks ChatML, tool schema into a tool block, into the system prompt. When the model decides to act, it emits a tool call block instead of a prose. Your runtime passes it, runs the function, and feed the result back into the tool response. So you see, so Hermes agent uses this ChatML for tool call round trip. So same idea. So if you look at both of them, it's the same idea, both for QwenPaw and your Hermes agent. So QwenPaw uses the skill.md open standard. You see, so Hermes agents also uses the same tool call format. So for example, both of them are also exposed to the same marketplaces as well. All these marketplaces will still work because they use the same skill format, which is the skill.md. So they are basically the same. So for me, I think it's best when to use QwenPaw, you want channels plus local models plus guardrails. I think for this, I kind of like give it to QwenPaw. I'm not saying Hermes agent doesn't have channels, but I feel like QwenPaw does it better. And I feel QwenPaw is so easy for me. For example, now you could see I have a local instance of QwenPaw. This is actually deployed on a server. So you could see here that you have QwenPaw.sabiedu.online. So I could easily have other users. I have multiple users that are using my QwenPaw instances. So this is one of the things I really, really love about QwenPaw. So you could try it yourself. You could browse these skills marketplaces and install whatever skill that is important for your agent. For example, one of the things I've always done when I'm using Hermes Agent is in Hermes Agent, you could just, for example, tell it, you could open a new section and even tell Hermes to look for the skills for you. You could say, look for skills on real estate. So estate, and install the top 2. So what Hermes Agent is going to do behind the scene. So within Hermes also, if you look at the skill set, although it takes some time for it to open, so you could look here, you could see a place here called search skills. So within search skill here, you could put, for example, you see, so this automatically helps you to see the kind of skills that you have. So let's see what is happening within our section. For example, here you could see, look at what Hermes Agent is doing out of the box. It is actually calling ClawHub to look at skills related to real estate. So Hermes is going to look at those skills and will look at what it has done. So it actually saw these top skills. And now the next action is actually running this MPS. I'm going to stop this because I'm not really interested in this skill getting installed. But I want to show you like what you could do out of the box. The same thing can still happen to QwenPaw. You could still decide to install your tools. You could still decide to do the same thing. So this is the end of this video. And remember the golden rule. Before you install anything from any marketplace, read the skill.md. Check the scan. Trust the loud silence of a well-worn skill over brand new one. So I think this is just what I'm going to leave you with. So if you love my content, please subscribe. I will keep them coming.